Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Gradowski here in London, Stan, and today's video is going to be a little bit different because we're going to get into self-help, personal development, and the very odd censorship that is happening for personal development companies regarding men. And to talk about that, we have Ryan Black, who is the founder of Infinite Man, which is a company that does real kind of social dynamics, personal development for men. And Ryan, you being a cis white male, I disavow you. And why do you hate women?
Awesome. Thanks for that awesomely loaded question, Luke. But you do, like, although jokingly, make an interesting point, which is that for some reason, right, over the last few years, there seems to be this demonization of guys who want to just improve their lives. They want to be able to meet women. They want to learn about social dynamics. And there's been a huge sort of pressure against guys that want to do that, against companies that are teaching guys how to develop themselves, how to make themselves better people, by social media companies, by Amazon, by Facebook. And we've experienced this, and it's a kind of a crazy time to be a guy, I think, in this world where there's all this kind of negative pressure against you. And that's something that we're kind of trying to push back against, and just trying to be like, hey, we just want to make guys amazing so that they can be in amazing relationships with women and everybody can be happy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Sounds very, very hateful to me. No, but in all seriousness, I do have to agree that there is a lot of social pressure. There's a lot of convoluting messaging, especially in mainstream media. If you look at any kind of male character, he's kind of characterized as being a lazy, incompetent, dumb human being. And there are some things in the self-development field that do need criticism, but there's also a lot of good things. I've been personally looking into it, and it teaches people how to be just human beings that are intrinsic, that are acting on values that are worthy of praise rather than destructive. It's about having confidence. It's about having respect for yourself and your family and the people around you. A lot of those important lessons are I would say, muddied by a lot of the kind of bad players and bad actors in this, but we're seeing just blanket kind of censorship, just like we saw with VMO, that just banned any content teaching men how to meet women, calling it demeaning. Meanwhile, they have a lot of interesting content up there, to say the least. We saw Amazon ban Rush's V book, and then they approved it. It was becoming a top seller. Now they just banned it again. We saw Reddit ban a lot of forums. What kind of pushback have kind of you seen from being in this field yourself?
Well, yeah, since 2011, I've been doing events, seminars, workshops, and things like that. And I pretty much had to accept for that entire time that if I applied to advertise on a platform, or applied for a bank account, or applied for a way to collect credit card information and stuff like that, pretty much 1 or 2 times out of every 5 or 6 that I applied, we'd just be banned with no real explanation, no real sort of like reasons, just like, we don't support your business model, or basically we don't want your business. And speaking to people in other industries, that doesn't seem to happen as much. It just seemed, because we happen to be teaching men about how to have successful relationships, about how to be more confident, about how to be more social, for some reason that was demonized to the point where we had Facebook ads accounts shut down many, many times. We had Google accounts, AdWords accounts shut down many, many times with no real explanation. And not just like an account was shut down, but just the URL of our company or business being sort of blacklisted. So anytime we wanted to set up a new account or something like that, just be instantly banned. And the thing is like, at no point did they say, look, you're saying, like, the reason we're doing this is because you're saying these sort of demeaning or derogatory things. Like, at no point did they say, like, you're against women or doing anything bad against women and stuff like that, which we never did. It was just like, no, we don't want to be associated with you.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff kind of teaches you to be genuine, to be honest, to be truthful to your word, and to just be you. A lot of times, they throw around the phrase, just be yourself. again, that's a cheesy kind of generalized phrase, but if you look at the bigger kind of nuances, that's pretty much what kind of a lot of the self-development teaches. It's about to learn about yourself and learn about how people interact, learn how to make people feel comfortable rather than uncomfortable. And we have really seen the opposite of men being very creepy, being very weird, being, a lot of the bigger kind of, whether it's suicide bombers or shootings or gun attacks, a lot of the violent crimes that do come from men usually do come from a lot of men who don't have good relationships with women. Especially with the Elliot Rodgers case, which was a whole case filled with a lot of disinformation. I don't know if you want to go into that and go into some of the kind of bad actors in this entire field that are not doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think these days more than ever, with the way that the media works, with the way that social media works, what we're seeing is men and women are more than ever feeling separate. They're feeling that there's this tension, and they don't know how to communicate with each other. And I don't think any of these sort of platforms, right, we've been sort of sold this idea that these social media platforms are somehow going to enable us to connect with each other more easily. But in fact, what we see is like more than ever, guys just really aren't sure, how do there's a girl I like in school or in class or whatever, or I see at this cafe or whatever it is. How do I start a conversation with her? How do I tell her that that I'm interested in her, that I want to take her out on a date, and all this stuff? These things are not being taught in school. I was certainly not taught it in school. That's why I founded this company, to teach guys this stuff, because we're not taught it. And on top of that, you have social pressure, and you have the media, and you have schools and indoctrination camps fundamentally teaching guys that fundamentally that their interest in women and their desire and their sexual desire is wrong, and that the fact that they have it makes them a bad person, and they should never express it. Right? I remember when I started university in the U.S., we had orientation that was 3 days. One full day of that was sexual harassment and what constitutes sexual harassment, and they gave all the girls rape whistles, and they said if a guy, if you don't get consent and you don't say the right thing, you don't check with her that it's okay, and you're both drunk, well then you've raped her and you could go to prison. So it just makes guys even more terrified of doing anything, of saying anything. So what happens is it forces guys to be way more passive. Well, they go, look, I don't want to make the first move or do anything that might be sexual harassment, so I'm just going to kind of sit back and hope that somehow I'm going to end up getting into a relationship with a girl or meeting a girl. And so what happens is you get these guys that, because they're told, your desire is wrong, saying anything is wrong, doing anything is wrong, they sit back, and after years and years and years of relationships not happening for them, they become bitter and resentful and go, why don't these girls like me? And a lot of that, really unfortunately, that resentment and that anger turns into violence. But that isn't to say, right? There's no connection between one guy who was obviously unhinged and a little bit insane or whatever, being bitter and resentful and angry that he wasn't getting interest from women, right? He happened to go on some of these forums and some of these sites where he was trying to find some advice about, how do I get a date? How do I meet a woman? Right? That doesn't mean that these sites or these people are advocating violence, right? It's just that one guy or two happened to be angry and bitter and turn to violence, right? Which nobody advocates, and I certainly, don't advocate at all.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that kind of personal development and this kind of entire field and men's development kind of teaches you is also how to make women feel not uncomfortable. And after learning about some of the simple things, how to read and understand cues, and how to not push boundaries, and how to understand if you're making someone feel uncomfortable and uncomfortable, a lot of people that I interacted with were like, wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having this hindsight and not being needy and pushy or forcing a kiss on me or touching me inappropriately. Because so many men are not taught how to interact with women and to make them feel comfortable, that they make them feel uncomfortable. And men, a lot of men are screwed up. Let's admit it. We need to be better as men. We need to know how to treat and respect and honor ourselves and honor women. And I think that's a big issue. And I think self-development, what you guys teach and what other good companies teach, is actually doing that and making the world a better place and getting rid of a lot of conflict, because there is so much conflict between men and women, and really just being able to understand each other, being able to kind of communicate openly is the first step to ending it, which I think is a good process. But also, let's admit it, there are some real bad people who have bad intentions, who only just want to get their, I don't want to curse on here, but they just want to get their genital areas wet, and are doing it in bad ways. Would you say, I don't think that's a big representation of this kind of field, but I do believe it is prevalent. Do you have anything to say about that aspect and how to combat that, since it looks like the bigger institutions are just blanketly censoring anyone with similar keywords?
Yeah, I would say that absolutely. It comes down to the intent behind what it is they're doing. There's absolutely, I mean, I think in any industry, right, doesn't matter what it is, there are some people, usually a minority, who are out there for their own interests, and they will spread whatever misinformation and whatever bad advice that they want in order to, whatever it is, profit from people, make money, fulfill their own desire to sort of be looked up to, or whatever it is. And there's absolutely guys like that in this industry. However, I think the vast majority, when it comes to the guys teaching and the guys learning this stuff, the vast majority of our students that come to us is very simple. They're a decent, hardworking guy. They're often in technical areas like engineering, IT, things like that. Areas where they just don't happen on a daily basis to meet and interact with a lot of women, and for that reason, they're just like, I've never been taught this stuff. I've lived my whole life. I think I'm a decent guy. I have really, really good intentions with women. I just want to meet one and respect her and have her as a girlfriend or a wife. And I just don't know how to. I was never taught these skills and these things. And the vast majority of guys teaching this stuff, including ourselves, just want to help guys like that learn some tools and techniques they can use to communicate. This is where it fundamentally comes down to, right? And this is what the intent is about. With us, it's about how can you communicate as effectively as possible what your feelings are, what you're thinking, what your intent is, in as effective a way as possible to girls that you find interested in, so that they can choose, right, out of their own free will, they can choose to either continue having a conversation with you and going on a date with you, or politely saying, I'm not interested, that's okay, and you being able to accept that and move on, or continue things to the next level. That's all we're ever advocating. And at any point, right, we constantly, at every step of this interaction, we say, if the girl's not comfortable with this, if she doesn't want to continue talking to you, if she doesn't want to continue giving you a number, she doesn't want to go on a date with you, or whatever it is, we say if she's definitely not interested, she says no with a serious face, then that's the end of the interaction. You move on, you let her do what she has to do, and that's very, very important. And that all comes from the place of not trying to get what you want out of somebody, but what's the most effective way to communicate how you feel to other people. So it comes down to taking responsibility for yourself and how you communicate with others.
Not many people have that, and if you look at the bigger kind of society that we live in, we either have some weird incels who are just in the corner staring at women, or just following them around down the street, making them feel uncomfortable because they don't feel secure enough to even talk to them, or you have some brutish idiot going like, hey, hi. No, there's so many different things that people just get wrong, and just wanted to leave the last question to you. What are some greater kind of misconceptions? What are some of the bigger truths that you're not going to hear from the mainstream media that you have learned from this entire industry?
So I think a huge, profound truth that I've learned and experienced myself, and then I teach to other people, is we're told by the media, we're told by society, we're told even by well-meaning parents and friends and relatives and things like that, that your sense of happiness and fulfillment is acquired from outside yourself. We're told that the opinions of other people and how other people perceive us is the most important thing. and that what we need to do is we need to acquire stuff and we need to acquire things in order to prove to other people that we're worthy of them, that we're worthy of respect from them. Men are told that we need to acquire wealth and we need to wear fancy clothes and we need to drive a fancy car so that we can gain approval from women, so that will be enough for them. And one of the core truths, and something that that we spend a lot of time teaching when we do the events and stuff like that, is that you are already enough. You don't need to acquire anything outside of yourself. You don't need to be anybody else. You don't have to pretend to be something or somebody that you hope other people will approve of, that you hope that girl that you're interested in would approve of. You only have to be the absolute best version of yourself. And I think a huge misconception that's surrounding this industry is that by doing what I just said, right, by trying to be the best version of yourself, by trying to learn strategies and techniques for effective communication, for having more confidence in social situations, that this is somehow manipulative, that it's somehow manipulating people into doing something that they wouldn't otherwise do or they don't want to do, so that you can get something out of them. This is very much about, for most people, I'm not saying everybody, but for most people, this is about not trying to manipulate people, not trying to get stuff out of people. It's trying to firstly accept yourself, and then from the place of self-acceptance, communicate and give out value to other people. And then all that happens is some people, when you give out that value, when you express who you really are from that place of self-acceptance, some people resonate with that. And you create connections with those people based on whether you resonate with them or not. And life literally can be as simple as that.
Hallelujah. Amen. And it's that simple, but yet that much more complex because of the weird kind of world that we live in. Ryan Black, thank you so much for all the information. Really appreciate all your time. The links to Ryan will be in the description below. And once again, thank you, beautiful, amazing, wonderful, caring human beings, for spending time with me and having your attention. If you appreciated this video, share it with your friends and family members. And of course, I love you guys. Stay tuned for a lot more.